Hey folks, it's Matt once again. Welcome back to another review for the Bill Paxton Marathon, and this time it's me taking another look at Apollo 13. I reviewed this probably a long time ago, but it was only a 15-minute review. And I figured Bill Paxton, he's one of the main roles, one of the three astronauts on the mission that went awry. And of course, the famous line, Houston, we have a problem. Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, and Bill Paxton, they're going to the moon. They have a system malfunction, and then it's a race against survival to get these guys back to Earth. Of course, based on the true story. Jim Lovell and his crew. Tom Hanks is Jim Lovell. Kevin Bacon is Jack Swigert, and Bill Paxton is Fred Haise. And it's directed by Ron Howard. I definitely think this is one of Ron Howard's best films. He's a very capable director. There's a lot of films I enjoy. I liked Willow. I liked Cocoon. I liked some of his earlier stuff. It's hard to say what my favorite Ron Howard film is. I know my least favorite is that one called The Dilemma with Kevin James and Vince Vaughn. That's a piece of shit, so that's easily my least favorite Ron Howard film. But my absolute favorite, that'd be tough to say. But this is up there. This one is up there. I think it's a very good drama. Has a good heart to it. Has an excellent cast. I mean, those three in the least. Tom Hanks, Bill Paxton, Kevin Bacon. That's great enough. But you also have Ed Harris as the flight director, sort of the head of mission control. You have Kathleen Quinlan, who plays Tom Hanks' wife in the film. Kathleen Quinlan does a great job. Ed Harris does a great job. You have Clint Howard, of course. He makes an appearance since he's brothers with Ron. You have Gary Sinise. Really enjoy him as an actor. He was a guy that was going to be on the mission, but they took him out because they were afraid that his character was going to have the measles. But he never did have them, and he helps them in a certain situation to help them get back home. And some other recognizable people. For example, I believe his name is John Short. He's the guy in Maximum Overdrive. He's the guy who Yeardley Smith says, "Curtis, are you dead?" He's Curtis. I'm like, holy shit, I haven't seen him in a movie since Maximum Overdrive when he was with Emilio Estevez, shooting bazookas at semi-trucks. So he has a little tiny role in this as part of Mission Control. He's trying to, this is Curtis from Maximum Overdrive. Xander Berkeley has a small role. David Andrews, who's the star of a favorite of mine, Stephen King's Graveyard Shift, he's in the film as Pete Conrad, who had commanded Apollo 12, and you mainly see him at the beginning of the film where the group of them are having a party and they're watching Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. And when the film came out, it was pretty popular. It was nominated for Best Picture, but didn't win too many awards. I think all it won was like Best Editing or Best Sound. On a quick note, that's why the Oscars are full of shit. I mean, the big one that won that year was Braveheart. Braveheart won for Best Picture, which I don't mind Braveheart. I'll be honest, I like Apollo 13 more, but I don't mind Braveheart. And all that drama and the Oscars when Argo with Ben Affleck was nominated for Best Picture, but Ben Affleck himself was not nominated for Best Director, and people had this uproar. Oh, well, wait a minute, who direct? This film is a Best Picture nominee, but you don't even nominate the director. Guess what other director did not get nominated? Ron Howard. He didn't get nominated for this. I mean, the film got nominated for Best Picture, but Ron Howard, he didn't get any nominations. It was Mel Gibson. It was the guy who directed Babe. It was Tim Robbins for Dead Man Walking. Mike Figgis, who directed Leaving Las Vegas. And Michael Radford for El Postino, the Postman, which I don't know if anyone even fucking remembers. Those were the nominees, and Mel Gibson won for Best Director. So I was surprised, like, and Tom Hanks, he did not get nominated. It was Nicolas Cage for Leaving Las Vegas who won, Richard Dreyfuss for Mr. Holland's Opus, Anthony Hopkins for Nixon, Sean Penn for Dead Man Walking, and the guy who, I guess, a posthumous, not, that means, I believe he passed away, and so they gave him a nomination for Il Postino, the postman. And I'm not saying it's an Academy Award worthy performance, but I think Tom Hanks did a great job. It's one of my favorite roles of his as Jim Lovell. This film has a lot of good heart to it. James Horner did a wonderful job on the score. I particularly love the end credits music. Uh, I think the end credits music is pretty damn powerful, and I sat there and watched through the credits listening to it. And when you look up James Horner Apollo 13 end credits, it's a great piece of music. And the rest of the score is very well done. And I miss James Horner. He was a composer I enjoy. I know he reused a lot of his own stuff, but still, scores like this, scores like Aliens, and there's a lot of James Horner scores that I really did enjoy. Dean Cundey was the director of photography. Dean Cundey worked on many John Carpenter films, like John Carpenter's The Thing. I think he worked on the Back to the Future films as the DP, so he knows how he knows how to do his job. It's a good-looking movie. The effects are fairly decent for 1995. I mean, once in a while, for example, when their ship launches and you see a bit of the landscape, the green grass, while the men are walking to the ship before it launches. Yeah, it's not the best, but it doesn't bother me as much because it's 1995, and I think the effects, for the most part, hold up fairly well, especially the scenes in space. I mean, the Earth doesn't look as pristine as it could be, but again, let me repeat. I think the effects for 1995, they're fine, and I'm not really going to pick it apart. And I do think the stuff in space was pretty damn decent. I still like the look of the ship launching. I still like a lot of the stuff in space. And they can't take too much artistic license because it's based on a true story, but I still thought it was. I think what it is with me, and maybe I've talked about this in reviews, maybe not. Gravity, which I really enjoy. The Martian with Matt Damon, which I really enjoyed. Interstellar, I enjoyed for the most part, except the finale with the whole "their future us." I'm like, what is there us in the future? This fucking Terminator. I just I didn't. But a lot of Interstellar I liked, especially Matthew McConaughey's performance. But I can't. I'm sorry, I can't stick up for that ending. I can't. Just that fucking thing in the finale. It's not even just the actual ending. Just the anyway. I did that review. I talked about it when I reviewed Interstellar. But I don't hate Interstellar. And the reason I brought these movies up, including this, I really enjoy stuff about space. Because not that I ever wanted to be an astronaut, but there always seems like a type of profession that is very interesting, very dangerous, but very interesting. For example, I watched, and in the other room I have From the Earth to the Moon, which is an HBO miniseries detailing the history of NASA, and I thought that was very interesting. Yeah, there is some not as interesting to me as others episode-wise, but for the most part, I really enjoyed From the Earth to the Moon, being really interested in the subject matter and interested in the whole space race against the world and against the Russians to get to space. And that stuff does interest me because I think it's that kid in you that wonders what is out there, what could be out there, and that part of you that have seen everything on Earth, even if it's from a computer screen, but we haven't seen, we haven't even begun to see what's in space. And if you think about it, not a lot of people talk about space travel anymore, anything space related. Once in a while they mention Mars, but But you don't have people going to the moon back and forth, or maybe you do and no one cares and no one notices. But there was a period of time where that was such a big headline, going into space and the whole space race, and could that be our future, which seems pretty abandoned nowadays. But I mean, it's also growing up with a lot of movies that take place in space, whether it be sci-fi films or films like Alien and Aliens, or on the flip side, movies like this. And I thought Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, and Bill Paxton worked very well together. I was never bored by it. There's two cuts of the film. There's the 2 hour 20-minute cut, which is what I watched, and then there's an IMAX experience version on this, which is an hour and 56 minutes. I don't know what all they cut out, but I just watched the longer version and never really got bored because it's not an action-packed movie. It's just I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the cast. I enjoyed the subject matter. I enjoyed, oh, hey, I recognize there's David Andrews. Or, oh, there's the guy from Maximum Overdrive. Miko Hughes, who is in Mercury Rising and West Train's New Nightmare. He plays Tom Hanks' younger son. He has a big part in the movie. I think Ron Howard did a really great job directing it. Roger Corman has a cameo. And it's funny because he's playing the penny pinching senator. And of course, Roger Corman is known for pinching pennies and making films cheap. So I wasn't able to listen to the whole thing because I just didn't have time. But for those wondering about this DVD, it is a 2-disc. You do have an hour-long documentary, which does have interviews with Bill Paxton, Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, Ron Howard, Brian Grazer, Kathleen Quinlan, a little bit from Ed Harris. Sadly, nothing from Sinise, which is too bad, but it's about an hour long, which goes to the making of the film, as well as a little bit about the real life and what happened during that. You have two commentaries, one from Ron Howard, the other from Jim and Marilyn Lovell, the real people, the real guy Tom Hanks played in the movie. You have a trailer. This, too, is the other version of the film. Conquering Space, the Moon, and Beyond, a recap of the last 45 years in space. Lucky 13, the astronaut story, recounting the events of the mission. So they're more about the real life happenstance. But I mean, the fact that you have an hour-long making of and a counter Ron Howard, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I do think it has a good heart to it. I think it has good drama to it. Yeah. It has a good sense of humor at times to it. You have some nice moments. For example, when Miko Hughes is asking about the fire that killed the astronauts on Apollo 1. For those who don't know, there was a test. They were testing it out before they go into space, and the hatch would not open. And so there was a fire that broke out, and they couldn't get out. And this is a real event that happened in history. And it was also in the From the Earth to the Moon miniseries. And very sad thing. And I like Tom Hanks' performance and trying to explain to his son what happened, and that he's asking, did they fix it? He's like, oh yeah, we fixed it. Yep, it's absolutely fixed. And little stuff that makes me smirk, for example, when they're getting their medical, and you have this guy who, I forget what accent he had, but Tom Hanks was mimicking him, like, yeah, we walked and we talked on the moon, yeah. Nice moments where they show weightlessness. And I believe the way they did it was, I forget exactly. They were actually in a plane that would do loops to cause weightlessness, and because they didn't want to film it with strings. So, just to shoot the scenes where it showed weightlessness, they were shooting a natural plane. some fun moments when they have a broadcast to their family. Of course, later on, they don't know it, but the people mission control, because the previous mission they've gotten to Mars. They've gotten to the moon and landed. Now no one's interested in space. So here is a broadcast of them going to the moon, and no one cares. No one is even. The networks are not going to air it. So it's pretty much just them broadcasting, and only the people mission control can see it. But uh, Bill Paxton has a Walkman. He starts playing "Spirits to the Sky," and Tom Hanks is going, "Well, that was supposed to be the 2001 theme, but looks like Fred Haise decided to change that." Or when Kevin Bacon admits, "Oh, hey, I forgot to file my IRS," and then Clint Howard has a fun line, "That's no joke. They'll jump on him." I like Clint Howard. It's always nice to see him in these movies. He's a nice character actor. But yeah, Kevin Bacon's ass disturbed the liquid oxygen tanks, and that's when all chaos happens, and they're just trying to solve each problem, whether it be the gas being vented out, realizing that they can't go to the moon. Like, this was their dream, especially Tom Hanks' character's dream, and now they can't do that. Trying to get under control, trying to get power from one to the other, getting Gary Sinise into there because they have to run as low power as possible, otherwise they're not going to have enough to get back to Earth. Dealing with carbon dioxide so they don't, die from it, and try to find a way to fix that. And then people mission control trying to figure out, well, all this stuff wasn't designed for this, was it designed for that? So they have to adapt, and they have to figure everything out. Dealing with the trip home, will the heat shield work or not work? Of course, it's based on a true story, so you already know what the outcome is, but still, it's very good filmmaking. It's a talented group of people, very well directed by Ron Howard, great story by James Horner. You have a wonderful cast surrounding it. Um, as technical as you can get in 1995, they were not cheap with the film. They put their money on the screen. They try to be, at least tried to be as accurate as possible. There's no way to be 100% accurate. And it was just a good story. Just a good story about, and the fact it was true. The fact that this really happened. And I even like the way it ends with Tom Hanks and his character saying, I look up at the moon and I wonder, when will we be going back? And who will that be? And then that James Horner score pops up, and definitely made me smile. Bill Paxton, it was great to see him get this kind of big role, and then the year after he'd be the star in Twister. So that was very cool. But yeah, I really don't have any bad things to say about this. The running time did not bother me at all. I never got bored with it. I think it's one of the best movies dealing with space that's not science fiction. Or even maybe even playing with science fiction, like sci-fi as well as realistic drama. I think this is one of the best ones. I will say I prefer this over The Right Stuff. The Right Stuff I could never get into. The Right Stuff does have a good cast, but it's not that I think it's an awful movie. That's a film, unfortunately, that did kind of bore me. Again, I don't hate it, but The Right Stuff is not my cup of tea. I definitely prefer, like, From the Earth to the Moon miniseries, or especially this. Really enjoy Apollo 13. But there's not much I can say other than that. Most people who see this video, they've already seen Apollo 13. And if they haven't, definitely give it a look. At least for, since Bill Paxton has recently passed away, and James Horner, who passed away, and a great cast, great director, and great composer getting together, making a wonderful movie. That idea has a good heart to it. Kathleen Quinlan, just her reactions to what's going on are heartfelt. They're not phony. They're not phoned in. Nothing seemed over the top or corny or cheesy. It all fit with the film. And yeah, it was a big hit for a reason. But those are my thoughts on Apollo 13. Really enjoy this film. Always have. I even remember, is that the first time I saw it, I can't remember, but I do remember in school, we actually saw this in school. I forget the reasoning for it. I guess just because it's because it's rated PG, and in school we could not have, if there was like a free day, we could not use PG-13 or R-rated, so it's like PG or G-rated movies. I'm like, this is a good movie and it's PG. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.